Hi guys and dolls. So I'm going to go ahead and warn you that today's video is going to be kind of long. I would suggest getting a piece of paper and a pencil and kind of jotting down some notes so that it'll help you in your assignments. And you can always come back and rewatch this a couple times. But I have some videos I want us to watch to go along with our definitions so that you can kind of visually see some examples. All right, so we're going to focus on narrative techniques. These are tools that authors use to convey a mood or an emotion or to add to our story to give it some depth. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to talk about flashback and foreshadowing. Flashback is when we get to, as readers, go back in time and see something that's happened to our character that has influenced the way that they are now. So, a good example of that is Ratatouille. In this moment, if you've ever seen Ratatouille, is when he eats the ratatouille. So the eating of that food in the present made him think about his mother in the past. So it's that flashback of going back in the past and how it affects us today. All right. Then you have foreshadowing. Foreshadowing, unlike flashback that goes back, foreshadowing tells us something in the future. All right. It is a hint of something that is going to happen. It doesn't outright tell you, but it gives you a clue that something's going to happen. Great example of that is creepy music in any kind of scary movie. When we hear this sound, we automatically know something bad is about to happen. So that is a great example of foreshadowing. Any kind of scary movie, whenever you hear the music change into something dark, it's letting you know something scary is about to happen. All right. Then you have dialogue. Dialogue is a conversation happening between characters. It's what we find in quotation marks. Here's a great example of the use of dialogue to tell a story. So just through dialogue, we've learned a lot. We've learned that the father is gone, that the son loved his child, or the son loved his father, the father would be 50 years old now. We can see that there's an emotional difference between where the mom is and where the son is. We know mom has moved on to the point where she has a new boyfriend. And we're finding all of this out through dialogue. Because that's what a text message is, right? It's just dialogue. And now we know that the father is alive and owes someone some money. So this dad is in serious trouble. And we learn all that through dialogue. Ooh, so now we know that he didn't just leave for no reason. He's trying to protect them. Oh, that's tragic. Isn't that terrible? And we learned so much through that dialogue. What a horrible story. I feel so bad for that dad. Dialogue can do so much, and we don't even think about it. All right, first person narrator is when the narrator tells their own story. This is an example from a movie called Stand By Me that was done back in the 80s.
As time went on, we saw less and less of Teddy and Vern, until eventually they became just two more faces in the halls. It happens sometimes. Friends come in and out of your life like busboys in a restaurant. I heard that Vern got married out of high school, had 4 kids, and is now the forklift operator at the Arsenault Lumberyard.
So the person that's talking is this character right here. And essentially the story is him writing a book, and he's narrating as the story plays out. Freak the Mighty is another good example of a first-person narrator. Metaphor is comparing two things by saying one thing is like another. So here's some examples of simile and metaphor. Remember, simile uses like or as, and metaphor does not. So when we use a simile, we're saying that this thing is like this thing, whereas metaphor is saying this thing is this thing. So here's some examples. Tranquil as a forest. A metaphor uses the same concept but without like or as. It's saying this thing is this thing.
You're a spineless tail, pathetic mutt, and you haven't got a clue. You're a cherry blossom, you're about to bloom. You look so pretty, but you're gone so soon.
So you're a cherry blossom is an example of a metaphor because it doesn't use like or as, but it's comparing you to a cherry blossom. All right. Now let's take a look at dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is a really cool narrative technique. It is when we, the audience, know something that our main character doesn't know. All right. And then I'll come back to multiple perspectives because I just realized that I forgot it. All right. So irony. My favorite example of dramatic irony is this scene in The Lion King.
Brother, help me. Long live the king.
Now, in that moment, we know something that Simba doesn't know. Simba thinks he's responsible for the death of his father, but we know that it's really Scar. So that's an example of dramatic irony because we know something the main character doesn't know. All right, multiple perspectives. Multiple perspectives is when more than one character is narrating the story. Great example of that would be Frozen. In Frozen, we have two narrators. We have Anna and Elsa. At some point, both of them are the main character. So there's not just one person that's talking. Sometimes we see it from Anna's perspective. Sometimes we see it from Elsa's perspective. All right. let's see. We have tone, the emotions of the character or narrator. Remember, mood is how we, the reader, feels. Tone is how the narrator or the character feels. So here's a great example of how music can change a film or affect a film. All right, so look at how we use this same music or same scene with different music. It changes the tone. This is triumphant. He is Jack Sparrow. He is a winner. Now look at the same scene with a different kind of music. It kind of changes the way we see it. Now it's scary. It's kind of freaky. It doesn't have that same kind of power and majesty as before. Even if we sat there and we look at this version. Now it's silly. And it doesn't have the same meaning or feeling at all. That's the power of tone. Tone can completely change the way that you see a situation. All right, inner thoughts, revealing the thoughts of a specific character. All right, so one of my favorite more recent Disney movies is Inside Out, because Inside Out literally tells you what's going on inside of someone's head. Hold on. This messed up on me. So let's do this. All right. So here's a great example of of inner thought, because in Inside Out is literally watching the inside of someone's brain.
Quality writing makes your
This is
schoolwork
an
better.
ad. It's not what I'm asking you to look at. So we're gonna mute that for a second.
So, as it turns out, the green trash can is not recycling. It's for greens, like compost and eggshells. And the blue one is recycling. And the black one
Riley is acting so weird. Why is she acting so weird?
What do you expect? All the islands are down.
Joy would know what to do.
That's it. Until she gets back, we just do what Joy would do.
Great idea. Anger, fear, disgust. How are we supposed to be happy?
Hey, Riley, I've got good news. I found a junior hockey league right here in San Francisco. And get this, tryouts are tomorrow after school. What luck, right?
Hockey.
Uh-oh, what do we do?
Guys, here, you pretend to be Joy.
Won't it be great to be back out on the ice?
Oh yeah, that sounds fantastic.
What was that? That wasn't anything like Joy.
Because I'm not Joy?
Yeah, no kidding.
Did you guys pick up on that?
So that inner
Something's
thought
wrong.
of the
Should we
mom
ask
thinking,
her?
oh, something's
Let's
wrong.
But keep it subtle so she doesn't notice. So, how was the first day of school?
She's probing us.
I'm done. You pretend to be Joy.
What? Okay.
It was fine, I guess. I don't know. Oh, very smooth. That was just like Joy.
Something is definitely going on.
She's never acted like this before. What should we do? We're going to find out what's happening, but we'll need support. Signal the husband. Ahem.
And then you have the dad's thoughts that are completely spaced out.
Uh-oh. She's looking at us. What did she say?
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Is it garbage night? We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
He's making that stupid face again.
I could strangle him right now.
Signal him again.
So, Riley, how was school?
Seriously? Are you kidding me?
For this, we gave up that Brazilian helicopter pilot?
I'll be Joy.
School was great, all right?
Riley, is everything okay?
Sir, she just rolled her eyes at us.
What is her deal? All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down.
No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I'll show you attitude. No. Stay happy.
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass.
Take it to DEFCON 2.
You heard that, gentlemen? DEFCON 2.
Listen, young lady, I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Pops? Come and get it!
Yeah, well,
Here it comes. Prepare the foot.
Keys to second position. Ready to launch on your command, sir.
just shut up!
Fire!
That's it. Go to your room. Now.
Foot is down. The foot
Is
is
down.
down.
So, even though it's very silly, we get to really see what's going on inside of each of their heads. The father's kind of spacey and doesn't really know what's going on, and so he resorts to putting his foot down. The daughter is kind of going through a wide array of emotions, and joy is not one of them. The mom is trying to mediate between and figure out what's going on with her daughter. Great scene. All right, multiple plot lines. This is when you have several stories all happening at once. Most TV shows have examples of multiple plot lines. One of my favorite examples is The Vampire Diaries because it's following multiple characters all at once. So you have Stefan's storyline, you have Damon's storyline, you have Elena's storyline, you have the originals. All of these different stories are all happening at once. And they intersect sometimes. Sometimes they carry on without each other. But they're all kind of main characters of their own story. All right. And we have excessive description, using imagery to help the reader fully experience a moment in time. This is when we make sure that our reader can see, smell, taste, hear, and feel everything that's happening. So here's a silly version of that.
Hundreds of animals gather at the bottom of Pride Rock, a tall, flat ledge that towers over the rest of the savannah. Zazu, a small blue bird with a large beak, flaps to the ledge. He bows to Mufasa, a powerful, dignified lion with a thick red mane.
So that's an example of excessive description. If you couldn't see, you would be able to visualize that in your head through the use of excessive description. And then last but not least is symbolism. That is when you use one thing to represent something else. And I'm going to go back to Inside Out and talk about Bing Bong. Bing Bong is such a good character and is really the perfect symbol of childhood, youth, and innocence. So throughout the course of Inside Out, we examine how our main character is kind of coming to terms with the fact that she's not a child anymore. And Bing Bong is that representation of that childhood.
See the UK's most imaginative film,
Inside Out! Inside Out!
and meet the summer's most unlikely hero.
Bing bong!
I know a shortcut. Come on, you see? DANGER. Shortcut.
We shouldn't go in there.
It's dazzlingly original.
Diversion. So long, sucker. Oh,
So that silliness, that
Inside Out.
If
ridiculousness
we
that
hurry,
is
we can
Bing Bong.
catch it.
In cinemas now.
If you've ever seen that movie, the ending for Bing Bong is very sad, but it's that moment when she's just not a kid anymore. So those are some narrative techniques. I know this video was a little bit long, but I wanted to give you a chance to really see what each of these narrative techniques are in action. So I'll catch you on the flip side, guys.